nothing without well-crafted, well-executed strategy. After our so many EDSA revolutions, what? Where is the promised land? How exactly do we get there? What might be missing is the third driver of change, values. An external vision that is not purely internalized by deep-seated values is empty. People want their leaders and their key people to be role models who walk the talk. No exemptions, please, from classmates, gangmates, and playmates. Values come from our emotional, not our cognitive, yearnings and aspirations. As a digression, neurologists say that if they operate your limbic brain, your emotional brain, and take it out, you might be as intelligent as before, but you can no longer make good decisions. Why? Because all the neocortex can do is arrive at conclusion. What propels you to action is your value, your preference. So there was this patient whose limbic brain was taken out. He was still very, very intelligent. But he could not decide, should I go to the mall today or to the office? Both had the same value. There was no emotional preference. Therefore, there was no action. So emotion is more powerful in driving us. And emotion lodges the values that we have, our preferences, our aspirations. The values expressed are true wants and preferences, and hence become our endless source of leadership energy. We as a people are still waiting for these values to descend in tongues of fire upon our leaders. But change does not have to happen in big ways. We can all begin with ourselves, one day at a time. Then we can help others change. For me, I see students as vessels of transformation. Some begin as arrogant, cocky vessels. You have to humble them in order for them to learn. You have to deploy a shock and awe strategy. They will test you and taunt you, but you just have to be on top of the game, always a few moves ahead. Some are shy and lack confidence. They are harder to transform. They must see that you really care for them, even while you push them beyond what they think their limits are. Some are indifferent and blasé. The best way to get them is to probe what they value the most and take it from there. Start from where they are, not from where you're coming from. The most challenging students I've ever taught were out-of-school youth from Baseco, Tondo, one of the poorest communities. They lacked the proper basic education and did not have the social exposure and wider experience of AIM students. Our mission was to find them gainful employment through our courses on technopreneurship. We partnered with an ME graduate who conducted the technical skilling part of the course, while we did entrepreneurship. To assure employment or self-employment, the same ME student had a franchise network of 200 shops who could absorb our graduates. The hardest part of the endeavor was making learning materials they could easily relate to. One of the materials was on operating a hair salon. I tapped the services of my favorite student, Aaron Palileo. To do episodes of a gay salon owner conversing about the business and their customer, which is gay manager. I told Aaron, magladlad ka na. All the episodes were in Filipino, in the form of an epic poem in rhyming quatrains. It was a hit. We started where the students were coming from, using their language, their humor, their mannerisms. By the way, we have a 96% employment rate in those courses. It took like a long time to make them, those courses, but it was well worth it. It's easier to teach an MBA. I can whip up a case and make it like hell for students. It's harder to teach those who have been undereducated because I have to learn their language. I have to learn their context, and that is difficult. You change context, you change cases, depending on who your students are. Perhaps I will end this already long speech with an anecdote. I wrote this paper reflecting occasionally on my Japanese garden. In the middle of the garden stands a 7-foot-tall, 7-foot-wide bonsai shaped like an umbrella on top of our small fish pond. I will not sell that canopied, majestic Kamatsili for $1 million. I bought the plant when it was 1 foot high from the Etas of Zambales. I put it on a pedestal in one corner and it grew really ugly. Thorny branches and twigs sprouted widely from the trunk. There was no pruning and wiring that could beautify it. In my frustration, I took it out of its pedestal and plunked it at one end of the fish pond. Wonders of wonders, slowly it took shape. Following the circular shape of the pond, the water evaporation from the pond was shaping and molding my ugly bonsai into that majestic umbrella. It even flowers every so often, bursting into blue blooms. Some pruning here and there, and my ugly bonsai has transformed itself into my most treasured possession. There must be a lesson there somewhere about the management of change in a changing environment. Lastly, what I want to leave for the people who came to this forum. Taking off from what I earlier said, that we should focus ourselves on the future and not our past. That we should be visionaries. It's not writing about vision statement like, we will be the leading company in this industry by X year. I've junked that. As Aaron said, I no longer use BM Ocrapi's Patres. I have discovered the antidote to it. The best way to strategize is to let ideas and opportunities emerge, and from them, you choose the best one. Do not plan. Do not translate yourself into boxes of activities and tasks and many little menial things, because you will remain a small mind. There are several ways to become a true visionary. I would ask you to follow in the footsteps of John Naisbitt, who wrote Megatrends. He says that he was able to predict the future when he was writing this in the 80s, the future of the 90s and the 2000s, by buying 60 regional newspapers. And he would try to notice the unusual articles that were sprouting. And some of these messages would appear slowly more often. The future is, in fact, in today. If you only observe the small trends that are happening today, you can predict the future. Today, of course, we don't have regional newspapers. We don't cut and paste. We have the internet. We have social media. I was talking to Alan Capulong, and he does that. He does social audits and the like, corporate audits, using social media. But if you actually classify and gather all of those materials, you will see from them emerge the future. Another suggestion is to look at what's happening in the world. There are usually extremes that happen. Today you can see two extremes. The world getting more and more secular. Churches are empty in Europe and certain parts of the US. But at the same time, there are more and more religious fanatics willing to kill because of their beliefs. Extreme sectarianism and extreme secularism. But these extremes will eventually converge in the middle. Eventually. If you look at the history of the world, it will go one way, long hair in the 60s, then short hair, and then there's the middle. The world is like that. But you have to be very observant of these things. Another is to watch the critical, important variables that determine the future of businesses and industries. For every industry and business, there is one critical red button that if you press it, it alarms. I'm reminded of a case that we wrote on Bluebird in Indonesia. This woman, whose husband passed away, entered a man's world. She went into the taxi business, eventually the trucks and buses and everything on wheels. And when we asked her, what is your secret? What is that magic button? The woman said, I have an excellent repair and maintenance shop. My cost of repair and maintenance is only 30% of my competition. That is the red button. As long as my taxis and trucks and buses are running almost full time, I will make the revenues just June was talking about. No revenues, no profits. So I remember that. So when my student who had a trucking business, and he wrote a business plan, and he's writing so many things, and I said, what is the one important thing that you should do about your trucks? He couldn't answer me. And I gave the same critical button. You see, you like buying old trucks. They're cheap. But they keep breaking down on you. And therefore, they cannot earn the revenue. And they might be cheap, but they do not generate the profit. So if you can concentrate on making those trucks run 100% because of great maintenance, great repairs, then you have a great business. Because the prices will all be the same. People will compare according to the prices. But you will have a tremendous advantage in cost. And that's where your secret is. So, after all is said and done, the advice of my mentor, ask one question. What is important? The rest are for the birds. They can be found in so many thousand cases. But the secret of management is finding the one important thing that you must manage and excel in. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the Alumni Board, I would like to thank our esteemed guest, Professor Emeritus June Bernardo and Professor Ed Morato Jr. A big round of applause, please, for our beloved mentors. Thank you very much for sharing your time and insights to all of us tonight. As I listened to the last lectures of these two professors, two questions came to my mind. First is, would the professors have said the same lecture if they were asked to do this exercise, say, 10 years ago? And the second question is, for the audience, would we have reacted or internalized the lessons as intensely as we have this evening if the professors imparted what they just did when we were in our 30s or 20s, perhaps? I leave those questions for our cocktail debate. All I can say is, time changes perspectives. Meantime, please allow me to do my assignment tonight. You see, the alumni board thought that I did a good job when we had our first gift series. This is the second time we're doing this. The first time we talk about innovation. And they tasked me to make the closing remarks and ask for one thing. As Professor June Bernardo said, don't just say thank you to AIM, show me the money. And so, during that first session, I was tasked to ask for donations, and I was able to raise a handsome amount of cash donations that night. And so, please stay and hear my pitch tonight. You see, Carl Pillemer of Cornell University interviewed 1,500 people aged 70 to 100 to write his book, 30 Lessons for Living, Tried and True Advice from the Wisest Americans. And what emerged as the #1 advice is, choose a career for the intrinsic rewards, not the financial ones. Do you agree? I hope you do, because that is very right. Just like in marriage, marry for love, not for any other reason like convenience. And so for the AAIM Fund, I'm asking Bea to pass the box and please give for no other reason except for the love for AIM. Can we do that tonight? And you see, I received a text from Jay, and he has good news, actually. So the text reads, this is from Bea, and she says, "Hi, Mom. As per Sir Jay, please tell them that for every 1,000 donation, a copy of the video will be given today, and they will have a T-shirt signed by the professor." Is that fair enough? Okay, so make it no less than 2,000, please, okay? And so we're passing the box now, and please feel free to donate any amount out of your love for AIM. If you also feel that, there was a value created for tonight's event, then feel free to add more, okay? You see, I was able to raise that handsome amount of money with only 1/3 of the attendance we have tonight. So can we should at least match, if not exceed that, or I'm expecting 3 times of what I raised last time. And besides, for tonight, just to tell you, we have to give a big round of applause for the MBM rather. I'm an MM, so medyo top of mind. MBM 72 for already giving 25,000 to AIM for tonight's activity. So thank you very much, MBM 72. I urge you, my friends, to spread the word about the gift series that we may be able to double the attendance in the next sessions. You see, my day job is actually sales. To many, my job is to sell your favorite drinks. What else? San Miguel beer, right? But I think only I know that my real job is not selling beer. My real job is selling ideas. Whenever I have an idea, I have to sell it to so many publics. I have to sell it to employees, peers, superiors, dealers, trade partners, etc., before I can actually see the fruits. And so tonight, I am here not only to close today's session, but also to make a pitch for alumni engagement. By the turnout we had tonight, your board is inspired to work even harder to be of value to you.